Here, make
B94.
Debo, Troy, B-Mac, Potsy, Taylor, Timmons, Big Snack, RC, Keysell, Aaron, Foot, Deshay, Woodley, Kirschkey, Hoke, Gay, Let's take a trip back to 2008. When the Steelers' defense was an all-time great, leading the league in every category. Team photo shoots for magazine cover stories. From Debo's run to Troy's INT, we got Dick LeBeau to talk legendary. Let's hear all the ends that say a living legend. LeBeau is legendary. He's grinning ear to ear, a Hall of Fame career, and a zone blitz that's so very scary. A living legend. LeBeau is legendary. He's coming on today to take us back in the day, to the last time that we held Lombardi. Let's go back to Super Bowl 43, when the black and gold made us all believe the schedule ever put on paper. Dick LeBeau turned every quarterback into a hater. Nowhere to run, nowhere to throw. Opposing offenses had nowhere to go. A living legend, LeBeau is legendary. He's grinning ear to ear, a Hall of Fame career, and a zone blitz that's so very scary. A living legend, LeBeau is legendary. He's coming on today to take us back into the day, to the last time that we held Lombardi.
B94.
Sound the battle cry,
Battle cry, battle cry.
boots on the field, yeah. We make some noise.
We make noise, we make
The
noise.
black and gold swarms with a heart of steel.
Of steel, of steel, of steel.
Tomlin's at the helm,
At the helm, at the helm.
and it's all so real.
So real, so real, so real.
Cause I'm watching, and I'm leading, and I'm winning. I'm with the team I'm rooting for. I'm strategizing, never quitting, black and yellow, flowing through my core. Cause it's crunch time, and the steel curtain, whoa, curtain, we blitzing, with the force we're bringing more. I'm commanding, steel spine vision, steel city,
Pumping in my soul.
we got the power, in every hour. Pittsburgh rushes in. Here we go. Defense like iron, our position's firing. But we're here to win. We're here to dominate.
I'm not gonna worry about your level of of concern.
Yoy and double yoy.
We talking about
Twitter.
Triple yoy.
Think of how stupid the average person is, and then realize half of them are stupider than that.
Quadruple yoy.
We want them to be fat and sassy and spoiled. I've had really intimate relationships with individuals at that position.
It's my quarterback. We mock ourselves.
It's that time for the week's hot and toxic Steelers takes. Welcome to the completely independent, the completely irrelevant, and completely irreverent. What Jin's talking about? I am Kyle Kreis. Across from me is Greg Benevent.
Hello.
A very big episode today.
Yes.
Maybe the biggest. Coming up in the second half. National champion for Ohio State. Hall of Famer for the Detroit Lions. 6-time Super Bowl appearances. I don't know if you realize, if anyone realized that.
Back to the Bengals.
Yeah. And a 2-time Super Bowl winner. And now, author. Is there room on the resume for Dick LeBeau?
Hey.
He's promoting his new book, Legendary, all about the 2008 defense. And we're going to talk to him about that and more, but mostly about that. That's coming up.
It stands to reason that would be the thing that would come up the most.
Yeah. No, we did talk. There's a little bit about the '95 team and some other things, but that's coming up in the second half. The biggest interview yet. If you thought LaVon Kirkland was big, if you thought Cody Sable talking about the black shoe, man, how long ago was that? That seems
it
like
feels like it was a decade ago, even though I know it wasn't.
Yeah, I think it was just 2 years, but
yes,
the black Air Force Ones. But no, bigger than all of them, it's Dick LeBeau in the second half. So either scroll forward now or enjoy. And then also at the end, a little for the hardcore What Jin's Talking About fans, we have a cool announcement. But let's not waste any more of your time. Let's get to these hot and toxic takes, starting with... we're talking Cam suspension. I guess we should introduce the topic. First up, at The Watchman, 412 Watchman. So much for Tomlin's due diligence. This is I'm not condoning anything that happened with Cam Sutton. The police report seems to speak for itself. Whether or not that will determine to be the actual facts in the case, or even if we might even be past that point. Details of the situation, withheld. I don't know. Let's put that to the side. I'm not going to take Tomlin criticism over this because I see it. Tomlin is giving Cam Sutton a second chance. He obviously, whatever discussion they had was enough to satisfy Omar and Mike, and I'm assuming AR too as well. And, we knew there would be a suspension. I mean, I thought maybe 4 games would be it, but I'm not going to now say this is a Tomlin failure because Cam Sutton's going to be out for half the season.
They had to assume it was going to be at least 6 games. That's what everyone seemed to think it would be, was 6 games. They had to know going in when they signed Sutton that he would be gone for at least 6 games. 8 games, I can't speak to whether it's appropriate or not. I imagine it is. The details were horrifying. They signed him. They brought him in at completely no risk signing for the Steelers on a pure business level. So I don't see it as a failure of the team that he wasn't there. I am glad that Sutton didn't appeal it and that it stays at 8 games. But yeah, I'd be very surprised. I'd be disappointed if, and I could see criticizing Tomlin if he didn't think it was going to be 6 games or 4 games or something like that. But I'm quite sure they knew it was going to be lengthy.
Yeah, they knew more than what we know, that's for sure. And they probably know more than what stats guy Daniel Valente knows. Bringing back a cornerback with some concerning and troubling off-field history for just 9 games is a real doozy and a head scratcher. Well, have you seen the roster in the secondary besides Joey Porter Jr. and player to be traded for Deontay Johnson? I think the cornerback room at least is what we might say to be less than.
Yeah, I think it's stronger than it was last year with, whatever was left of Levi Wallace and the other guy just by virtue. But we also have not seen Jackson yet as a Steeler cornerback. They signed the guy for the veteran minimum, and they're going to have him for half the season. That between those two things, I mean, whatever feelings of not being comfortable with them signing someone that has been, at least suspected of this crime, I can understand that. But again, from a pure business decision, it makes sense.
And Cam Sutton would have been, even though, Detroit fans said he had a horrible season, he still would have been the starting cornerback, I believe, for Detroit. And now we're getting him as basically as our third, if that.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. And the idea is he won't play on the outside in Pittsburgh. He'll play in the slot. I'm sure there might be a few downs where they line him up outside, but for the most part, he'll be in the slot in Pittsburgh, which, as I understand it, I certainly don't watch the Detroit Lions. That's not what he was asked to do primarily up in Detroit.
Yeah, it's hard to, people are like, well, this is a bad sign. It's hard to have 3 quality corners, if not more. And the way that the Steelers play the nickel, it seems like they have a run-down nickel and a pass-down nickel.
Yes.
Like the Molette, I believe, was like the run-down nickel. And then I don't even remember. I can't remember now who.
Right. I don't either. But there's always another guy coming in and out. And that's what it's been. It's been guys coming in and out and no one really sticking around since Mike Hilton. There are worse ways this could have gone than Sutton coming in at the second half of the season.
Let's see is there a good take on this? At DJ S. Berg, Darren Iron Lion. Welp, I guess the Cam Sutton gamble isn't paying off too well unless you buy into the notion that this was known all along. They'll have a fresh slot corner come available to them at the midpoint of a very long season. Oh, not just any long season, but the gauntlet of 2024, which is going to be, and hey, maybe this is a Hard Knocks distraction too. We can have Cam.
This very much could be the kind of thing that shows up in Hard Knocks. I mean, again, between 4 teams, I imagine they'll be able to find plenty of drama, but it also stands to reason that once Cam had completed the suspension, if the Steelers hadn't signed him, somebody else would have. Certainly by week 8 of the regular season, I imagine someone would have signed him at some point in August. Someone gets hurt, or even going into September.
So what does that leave us with is the question. And the answer at Alex_Kazora. Cam Sutton may eventually become the Steelers slot corner, but the battle is back to being wide open. Current candidates: undrafted free agent Beanie Bishop. Okay, so the depth, it just jumps off there to an undrafted free agent Beanie Bishop. Vets Josiah Scott and Grayland Arnold will be a top camp battle. Team could mix and match as they've done in the top 2 years. I'm sorry to say that I'm not really familiar with any of these names.
No, I the one name I'm familiar with just because no one else is called Beanie. That's sort of easier to remember. But I mean, obviously, when looking at something like this, I don't need to know the names to know that 2 guys are veterans and 1 is an undrafted rookie free agent. So despite the fact that the team seems to like Beanie, from what I've read, that you have to think the veterans have a better chance at this. That said, of course, since it's a hole in the Steelers that they don't have right now, everyone has put down a different aging and or past their prime cornerback that the Steelers could presumably put into the slot now.
You're exactly right.
Yeah, I mean, Beanie Bishop, hey, undrafted free, wasn't Mike Hilton? I don't know if he was.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he was.
Yeah.
I could be wrong, but he also bounced around between many teams, so he wasn't just an undrafted free agent. I feel like wasn't he in New England before he came to Pittsburgh? Didn't they cut that? I don't even know if he was the Steelers' undrafted free agent when the Steelers signed him.
That sounds right. Jim Wexell is calling Beanie Bishop college football's stickiest pass defender. So
I mean, I do think the idea is at some point it's just, the reports on Beanie have been so positive, and at some point Beanie could certainly be the guy. But I mean, Joey Porter Jr. didn't start for the first few games. The first or second round draft pick versus the undrafted rookie free agent. And again, obviously it'd be a different set of responsibilities, but they'd still be responsibilities.
And, the nickel back, I think they play, 30 snaps or more a game. It's
that's someone who's not just watching the game from the bench. Mm-hmm.
Maybe more than Keanu Benton or something,
right.
So, okay. Well, what if it's none of the above? At All Steelers FN, All Steelers, Anthony Averett will get the first crack at replacing Cam Sutton. If I didn't know who a Grayland Arnold was, I definitely don't know who an Anthony Averett is. I think he's. Did we sign a guy from the Ravens?
I think this is the guy from the Ravens, but also I think I remember this name from. They had that rookie mini camp, and it was all these guys from all over, and everyone did a profile on all of them, and the only guy that got signed was the guy who'd previously played in the league with the Ravens. Yeah, and I think that again, if nothing else, that too is instructive about how much they prioritize a veteran versus a rookie. And if they're willing to do that for rookie minicamp, then they're certainly willing to do it for the games that count in Atlanta.
And I guess one point to make, Cam Sutton isn't gonna count against the 53,
right?
Until he comes back. So, maybe more than one of these guys will get a shot. Someone's got to play special teams, and someone's got to play slot corner, I guess.
And I think there'll be some crossover and all that. And also remember how weird this is, because Cam will be able to play in the preseason. So you will see him then before his suspension kicks in. But then again, how much is Cam going to play in the preseason, since we have to find who's actually going to start at slot corner for the first half of the year?
Yep. Okay. Well, what if it's none of the above? Let's return to at All Steelers FN. Back-to-back tweets. He just said Anthony Averett, but no, Ahkello Witherspoon is the Steelers' best slot cornerback option in free agency. Are you ready to bring back the GOAT, Ahkello Witherspoon?
Well, I mean, there is something to it, just because when I try to think of guys that could be good in the secondary for a very brief period of time, Ahkello Witherspoon is someone that comes up. Someone who could be a good cornerback for a small sample size, and not much more than that. I did like listening to Ahkello Witherspoon when he was mic'd up at camp. The guy has a unique perspective on things. Like, while the other players were getting each other fired up during the stretch, Ahkello Witherspoon would say stuff like, I'm going to work on myself today. Like, it was very modern therapy talk, and I appreciated that. I mean, I would think to call Patrick Peterson before Ahkello Witherspoon, but I don't know. I perhaps it's because I see Patrick Peterson on more podcasts than Ahkello Witherspoon, and I'm susceptible to propaganda. It seems like, I mean, I know we say this every year. It seems like there has to be a guy out there that could just sign to be this particular position, and it rarely happens.
I laugh at that.
Yeah, this is not. It doesn't seem like it's a priority the same way that for the in relation to the number of snaps on the field. I don't know.
Right.
Well, you brought up the name. Let's go to at Jason Shetler. Now that Cam Sutton's suspension has come down, does this possibly open up talks to bringing back Patrick Peterson? I mean, I guess so, although it seems like his weakness was in pass coverage.
Right. I mean, even in the slot, I do think the Steelers would love if one of those three names that I've already forgotten steps forward as the next slot cornerback. So I think that I would imagine the Steelers are going to take a lot of camp to try and figure that out, and if that doesn't work, I mean, it's not like Patrick Peterson's just out eating potato chips and not doing anything. I mean, I imagine they could cover him and have him come in, or Ahkello Witherspoon, or whoever else, or someone else cuts their slot corner because maybe they found the undrafted rookie free agent who they would feel comfortable stepping in at the beginning. So yeah, but I imagine the Steelers are going to want to let this play out just because they'd like for one of these guys to step into it.
Let's hope they step in it. And I'm not talking about the doo-doo. I'm talking about the gabagool. Let's hope they step into it. Let's talk about QBs.
It's my quarterback.
That's my quarterback. Let's go to at Kyle Beagle. Kyle Beagle. Insider Ray Fittipaldo. Steelers QB battle could dominate national news cycle during training camp. And I'm just like, really? But then just this week, Kay Adams from what used to be on Good Morning Football.
Okay.
Now I think she just has her own podcast. She's saying that Russ and Fields is going to be a rare, one-of-a-kind QB competition. I can see the national media because they're going to see Justin Fields playing against, third stringers and going, this guy needs to start.
This guy can throw a pass over Anthony Averant.
Yeah.
Yes, no, your point is right. I mean, this is going to be the big national story because it's sexy. It's quarterbacks. Case point, I do agree with it to a point. It is a unique quarterback battle in that it is a team completely starting over with quarterbacks, both with established careers elsewhere, both looking for redemption. And yet what makes it not a unique quarterback battle is that it's not a quarterback battle.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's if we thought Mitch and Kenny wasn't the battle we were promised, then Russ and Fields is definitely not going to be.
Oh, this is going to make Mitch and Kenny look like Young in Montana.
And that was after a perfect preseason. That's the thing. We're not going to have the perfect preseason that we had.
Not
so
the slightest.
I think the national news cycle is going to be like, this is a complete failure on the Steelers, and it's,
and I'd rather they sneak up on somebody versus like the idea like, yeah, these guys are ready to compete with the 49ers. Sure.
More QB talk from at Field Vision MI, Field Vision Sports. We've got a side-by-side look at Russell Wilson and Justin Fields in 2023. Pretty similar from an overall number standpoint, but very different in how they got there. What we're looking at, let me, it's hard to see here.
Sure.
Basically, I'll break it down if you're not watching on YouTube. We've got Russ is 18. What is Russ? 8th. He's 8th in intermediate passes last year.
Okay.
And he's first in intermediate left passes.
Okay.
But he's 16th ranked in deep passes, and across all depths of field, shallow, intermediate, and deep, he's close to last in middle of the field completions.
Oh.
So he's 8th in intermediate, but weak over the middle and 16th in deep passes. Now, let's go to Justin Fields. Justin Fields is 8th in deep passes, but he's 53rd overall out of 30 starting quarterback, 53rd in intermediate passes. So I don't know, what says more to you? Russ, who is more capable during intermediate passes, but not over the middle, or Justin Fields, who can throw it deep, but not in intermediate.
This might be me living in my fears, but I'm good with the intermediate. It feels like those are a lot more passes you're going to get. Now, what's interesting about these stats is that we have been told so much over the course of the offseason is that, hey, Russ still has the deep ball, and that's kind of not what these stats say. And it says that Justin has the deep ball, but I mean, this just came to me. The thing that can corrupt all of these stats is garbage time.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, the Bears were down a lot and down by a lot in a lot of games. So I can see at that point Justin heaving it deep a lot, and the man does have an incredible arm, and the other team not necessarily caring quite so much. But I don't know whether to be bolstered or confused or scared by the shockingly low numbers behind the line of scrimmage. If these guys are in the 70s, who is like first in? is it Mahomes, or is it like someone that's not good, that's just crushing behind the line of scrimmage?
Yeah, who? I guess that would have been. I don't know. I guess that was Kenny.
Right. I mean, that's what I was kind of wondering. Like, is it? It wasn't Mason. I mean, I don't know. It's and also I imagine a behind the line of scrimmage passes. It's all dependent upon other players, but I imagine those are even more dependent upon other players. And none of these guys had the greatest offensive line last year.
Let's go into even some more hard to analyze. Let's go to more some more analysis.
No, that's not a word either.
Oh well, these are neither are these stats. Let's go to @Sharp Football. Warren Sharp. Highest rate of red zone incompletions due to inaccurate passes. I think last week we just had inaccurate passes overall, but this is the red zone, and we've got Russ 18th with a 31% incompletion percentage.
Okay.
Which is better than Kenny, who was 39%, and Justin Fields, who was 35%.
Okay.
So based on red zone accuracy, it looks like Russ is the guy, but still 1 out of 3. It's it doesn't seem that's not the best. I'd like to see that come down.
I would too, and now I'm still. I mean, Warren Sharp seems to be a guy who knows what's going on. So, I mean, I really don't want to dismiss these out of hand. I imagine there's a pretty strong methodology behind this. So we're talking about red zone incompletions and whether they were the fault of the quarterback or the wide receiver. And this is saying that 31% of the time when the Broncos had an incompletion in the red zone, it was because of Russ's throw.
Yeah.
Okay, so that I wonder how much that incorporates when Russ maybe didn't make the greatest throw, but like Jerry Jeudy brought it in, or that big tight end they got or something. But I mean, I don't know. It seems like all of these numbers seem too high, but for every quarterback. But I guess you're right. Both guys being in the 30s and Kenny being in the 30s all seems far too high.
I get it that it's a little bit harder in the red zone, and then some, sometimes there's those wide out fades, which I always hate, but that seems to be, that seems to be a highly called play. And I didn't break down what the middle of what the medium or the mean is. It looks like it's around 27, 29%, something like that.
Yeah, so he would be slightly worse than average, which, I mean, again, when you're keeping the company of Patrick Mahomes and Jordan Love, you're not doing too badly.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, Mahomes is right there at 29. So okay, well, how about even more quarterback stats? At the 33rd team FB, the 33rd team, Will Levis took a hit on a quarter of his dropbacks last season. Okay, don't care about Will Levis, but right there, number 2, most dropbacks with a quarterback hit, Russell Wilson, 20.4%, the second highest. So, that's concerning. Justin Fields is 7th with 17.7%. Kenny was 10th at 16.4%. So, it's hard to say. Is that because he held on to the ball? Is that because the line was weak? I guess in Kenny's situation, it was probably a little bit of both.
If you remember, we had those lengthy debates throughout the course of the season from various media figures about how Kenny was rolling into the coverage, into the pass rush, rather. And I think with Russell Wilson, it's, holding on to the ball a lot, that offensive line not being the best, and also him holding on because I can still make a play, and him also not being 24. So it's also this stat, by the way, is why, Justin Fields is probably going to start a game this year. I mean, because of this stat. I mean, that's not to say Russell has some terrible injury or something, but 17 games with the second most hit quarterback on dropbacks, having a good backup is critical.
You're exactly right.
Right, you are. And are we going to see the quick draw, the quick gunning offense that we saw like Ben's last year? We're going to try to keep Russ upright as much as possible, and then that means more short passes.
Well, I think you'll see some of that, but I think the goal is to have a much better running game than Ben did his last year. If the running game had been better Ben's last year, you would have seen less of that, quick, here, throw it right now snaps. So I think with a better running game, that should buy Russ a little bit more time, because they do want to throw the deep ball more with Russ. That's something that, somebody referenced at minicamp or OTAs, and because somebody said it, then that means the media people can tell you.
And hopefully this is our best line in 5 years. I don't know. I mean,
the two rookies being up there makes it a little scary.
Yeah.
But it's certainly the most talented line. Whether how soon it takes to come together, that is a different bit of business, maybe.
It's good to see the big boy.
Let's hope. We need big boys this year, if because we got a little guy behind the center. More QB talk. How much more can we talk about QBs? At Flip Steeler, FS Flip Fisher. What other positions did the Steelers improve at? QB is an upgrade, but by how much? 100%? Nah. 50%? Realistically, no. 25%? Probably getting closer. But what percentage of a harder schedule over 2023? Steelers faced 8 backup quarterbacks, so a good starting point at 50%. Without talking about the backup quarterbacks we faced, what percentage upgrade of quarterback are we at in 2024?
I mean, this is like you're just asking these questions to try and deal with your anxiety, to fix uncertainty where uncertainty is all that exists. I wouldn't even know how you would qualify this. I mean, we tried to do it. I feel like you did a great job of it in the last couple weeks. I forget exactly when you mentioned it, but about how many touchdowns could Russell throw versus interceptions compared to what Kenny had done. And without having those numbers in front of me, I imagine it falls between the 50 to 25% improvement, which, if that happens, would be pretty significant. And, if this person's going to look at all these other stats, including how many backup quarterbacks the Steelers played in 2023, because, again, Steelers are probably going to play a backup quarterback or two, even in the worst gauntlet in 2024. Yes. I mean, 17 games. That's somebody's going to play their backup. But you also have to take into account other factors in the team have changed too. The idea is that the running game should be better, even if the offensive line hasn't truly congealed, or when it does, or the offensive coordinator coming there. The defense should also hopefully be stronger. It is on paper. Like, all these things can affect these numbers, of which still aren't defined in the first place, how you improve a percentage here in July.
Touchdown-wise, what did we have? 12 passing touchdowns? I would hope touchdown-wise we might be 100% better.
Right. Right.
Now, yardage-wise, if we're 15 to 20% better, then we're closing in on 4,000 yards or something.
Right.
But I think touchdowns, we need to be 100, more than 100. Can you be more than 100%?
Like they get 200%. They might also be 100% more on the interceptions. But that doesn't mean that the team is losing. That means it's a very different offense with very different players.
That is a reasonable expectation.
Okay, Coach. Reasonable expectations are not what Steelers Nation does best. This one last thing. I don't know. Is this even a quarterback stat? I don't know. Or something. Or wins a quarterback stat? At Ross McCorkle. The Steelers spent the 7th most time per game on average trailing their opponents in 2023. 27 minutes and 30 seconds per game. Now, obviously, if you remember the Cower Power years, it's 60 minutes or a game. So it doesn't matter if you're winning 58 minutes in or 58 minutes in. All that matters is eventually who wins at the final. But just for comparison, Steelers are the only playoff team in the top 11 of most trailing teams. And then the 12 of the 14th fewest trailing teams all went to the playoffs. Wow. So I don't know what that is, what you can credit that to or discredit it to, but wouldn't it be nice to maybe lead in some more games this year?
Right, as opposed to trailing for almost half of the game. I mean, this is the closest I've ever seen to someone quantifying the idea of bend but don't break. Like, this is the one stat that seems to actually make sense in defining that term. Speaking for myself, but I imagine I'm also speaking for a lot of other Steelers fans, I saw the number 27 minutes and 30 seconds. I thought, wow, that feels low from what 2023 was. It felt like they were trailing from the first or second drive through the Kenny's magic in the fourth. So that number, that's what would happen in the fourth. You would get the one up, and so this is surprising. But I'm not at all surprised to see the rest of it. That it makes sense that the Steelers were the only team to get to the playoffs that trailed this much, and the teams that didn't trail, the teams that won, were the teams that were usually winning. That feels like a pretty good stat.
It does feel like were we trailing at every halftime? I don't know.
A lot of them. I mean, I the last stat made sense too. I was thinking, I think Will Levis got hit every time he dropped back against the Steelers too, and he completed a lot of those passes. This is some very reasonable stats we've gotten today, Kyle.
All right, well, if we can improve on these 6 or 7 stats, maybe I should hold on to this for the end of the season. Why don't we take a quick break? Coming up in the second half, Dick LeBeau, defensive coordinator, legendary. The book is out now. I've already started my copy. But we'll talk about all things 2008 defense and more. Stay tuned.
Did you bring the peanuts, pretzels, popcorn? Did you bring the burgers?
Where's the beer?
Did you bring the ketchup, mustard, pickles? Did you bring the pumper?
Yeah, it's here.
Did you bring the Icy Light Iron City pumper?
Can't forget the pumper.
One of each.
Did you bring the ice to chill the pumper?
Yeah.
When you want a cold one, just reach. Have a picnic, have a party, call the people, tap the pumper, have a pumper party. Did you bring the pumper? Did you bring the pumper? Did you bring the pumper? Yeah.
All right, welcome back. I'm very excited to talk with today's guest, a Hall of Fame defensive back, the iconic Steelers defensive coordinator who won 2 Super Bowls, now the author of the new book, Legendary, Coach Dick LeBeau. Welcome to What Yin's Talking About.
Well, thank you very much, Kyle. It's very happy to be here.
Congrats on the new book, Legendary. Now, there are so many amazing chapters to your career, from the national championship under Woody Hayes, 14 years in Detroit. What inspired you to specifically write about this 2008 Steelers defense?
Well, I've always been a stat freak. When I became a coordinator, actually when I started coaching, even back to when I was playing, I always tried to interpret, well, what is a good enough you're always looking to get better. But I would, everybody says you got to set goals, you got to be a goal setter, and you attain a goal, you got to make another one. And I ascribe to that, but particularly at the professional level, it's difficult to isolate one part of the team and get a meaningful goals for that group and that group alone. Being a defensive coordinator, I was focused on the performance of my defense. So I began to study statistical aspects of each game from the defense's standpoint, and what numbers equated to low points, which of course is the most important statistic. Don't give up a whole lot of points, your team got the best chance of winning. And I ended up coming up with, I think, about 11 critical areas, and then maybe 4 or 5, which was probably overkill. But I did, there's a million stats, so I did have to try to focus in on some of it. But once I got those, I taught around that a lot by setting goals for my players. And over the years, I coached for 45 years and coordinated for a large amount of those. So I had a pretty good database that I was looking at and referring to. And I began to see what was okay and what wasn't. And that's where I established my goals around. And we talked about that every day preparing for the season. But once into the season, I would focus in on it for the game against the opponent. Here's something we got to really be careful. They are very good in this area, and things of that nature. It was a great teaching aid for me as a coach. Well, at the end of this as this 2008 season was unfolding, I noticed that you put where you are in the league, and it was number one. These guys ended up being number 1 in 9 out of 11 of the categories. Well, I'd never seen that before. And then I began to look at the margin of the way they were making these goals, and I'd never seen that before. So I thought, well, this would make a tremendous book on one of the most proficient defenses statistically that I've ever seen. Well, I didn't know then that I was going to coach until I was 80 years old. So the book kept getting put on the back burner because there just isn't time when you're working, getting ready for the next season, things of that nature. So when I finally did retire, and I checked, I had to go back statistically to make sure that my observations were still accurate. Well, no one had come close to them at all since I had a chance to look and research it a little bit. I said, nope, it's still a viable book. And I think that it's one that's worth writing, so that initially my name really wasn't supposed to be in there at all from my standpoint. I just wanted to focus on the 2008 defense, and that was the reason that I wrote. I'm always going to write the book, and it just finally got around time in my life when I could do it, and it turned out very well. I had some great help from Scott and George, and I think the finished product, the football fans are going to enjoy it, and the Steeler fans are going to really enjoy it.
Oh, no doubt. Now, the 2010 defense, although they ultimately lost the Super Bowl, but had a lot of the same players. What would you say made 2008 even more unique? Was it just that statistical dominance?
Well, there were so many oddities, I guess, in that season that just kind of cried out for, hey, put this down in a book sometime so people can refer to it. We beat San Diego 11-10, and there's never been a game of that score before or since. There probably won't ever be another one. 11-10 was the final score, and your defense got to play pretty good when you win 11-10. But our schedule going into that season, it was the toughest schedule in the league. In fact, I think it was the toughest schedule in the history of the league. The number of playoff teams that we played and the number of victories that those opponents had piled up the year before. So it wasn't like they did this against chopped liver. They were playing against the top of the league and teams that had done so well the year before. We beat Baltimore, our arch rivals, 3 times that year. In the first game by 3 points late in the game, the second game by 4 points late in the game, and in the third game, we were 2 points ahead with about 3 minutes to go in the game when Troy intercepted that ball and ran it back and made it a 9-point game. But it was really 2, 3, and 4 point game with 3 separate battles. So that's a pretty narrow margin of victory. And they were just a special, unique team in the Super Bowl. We got the greatest defensive play, in my opinion, ever in football when Harrison picks the ball off and goes 100 yards with it. And you got 11 guys on the field. Harrison's got the ball under his arm, so there's 10 left. 9 of the 10 got blocks. And some of them got 2 or 3 blocks. It was an amazing play, the most amazing play I'd ever seen. And in the final drive of the game, after we gave up, we'd never given up any big plays through the year. We gave up 2 gashers in the fourth quarter to trail after leading the whole game. And Ben in the offense comes down and wins the game for us in the very, very last minute with an unbelievable pitch and catch to Santonio Holmes. And there was just so many things of that nature in the game.
Now, in '95, that was also, went to the Super Bowl. And, you had your share of legacy players on that team, too. Woodson and Carnell Lake, Greg Lloyd, Kevin Green. I think that defense held Emmitt Smith to, 40 yards in the Super Bowl. And I think half of them came on the first touch of the game.
That's a completely accurate statement in both cases. I think that's the lowest amount of yardage that any winning Super Bowl team has ever made in that game, and that was a particularly great defense. That bunch and the players that you alluded to. I was the coordinator and the defensive backfield coach. Well, I had Rod Woodson and Carnell Lake in the same daggone defensive backfield. I was pretty smart, you know.
You were a ball hawk as a player. Did you ever put yourself did you ever think you could cover guys like Antonio Brown or Randy Moss if you had been of the same era? Do you ever think like that while you're on the sidelines?
I never had a doubt in my mind. In fact, one of my favorite things was to poke my players with how many interceptions have you got? How many have you gotten? And it's in the book, and they total them up. And I said, well, you only got 20 more to go collectively to get to me. And when Woodson finally got as many as I had and went by me, he called me up that day. I've coached two guys who actually went past me, but that was an unusual group of guys. But I actually played and guarded Bob Hayes of the Dallas Cowboys. Well, he was the Olympic 100 meters champion. So I covered the fastest person on the planet. And the final score in that game was 5-0. We lost to Dallas. It was in a playoff game down in the Cotton Bowl down in Texas. And I said, well, I learned one thing today. Doesn't matter how fast they are, if you give them enough room, you had to keep your eye on them. Now, we had a great defense with the Lions, and a defensive backfield collectively are kind of dependent on the 11-man strength, and you got to have some pressure on the quarterback, or they're going to complete passes on you. And with the guys that we had on that first Super Bowl team that went out to Arizona, and the guys that we had on the 08 team on defense, I could have played defensive back behind them easily.
No doubt. Obviously the Super Bowl memories are going to stick with you forever. Is there a moment or a game that you wish you could have back? Anything that kind of still sticks in the back of your head that, I wish I could have, taken that play back or something?
I think that every game that I've ever called, the defensive coordinator, he calls the defenses, and they're at the end of the game. If you're worth anything, you really analyze your own performance before you start critiquing your players' performance. How did you do in this game? And invariably, I would say, oh, Dick, that was a stupid thing to do. Why the hell did you do that? But I think through that you grow through experience, and that was my biggest asset to contribute to any team that I worked with. I had almost 60 years in the National Football League, 14 playing and 45 coaching. And you see an awful lot of plays, and you go through an awful lot of film. You spend a lot of time in your office at night cranking out videos. And my always final statement on all that type of thing was always, how did you turn out, man? Everything you did is okay if you won, and if you didn't, you should have done a little bit better someplace. But my main thing that I had when I was calling defenses, I tried to have a reason for I called it. Now, sometimes the reasoning was completely jaundiced, but I still could base. I didn't just pull in something out of a bag and say, oh, let's try this. I had a reason. I'd looked at film. I'd studied. I knew the opponent. I knew the particularities of the quarterback that we were playing, who their best weapons were. I tried to make us like a heavyweight champion fighter or a heavyweight challenging fighter. If their right cross was their best punch, I was going to do the best I could to make them beat us with their left hand. So if they had a great wide receiver, I was going to try to take him away, or a great running back, whatever it was. And I based everything that I asked my guys to do around one critical piece of information, I guess you would say, or statistical data. Would I ask myself to do this if I were on the field? And that was my bottom line. And if the answer even came close to no, I didn't even put it in the game plan. The other thing was, I'd come up with we were known for our zone blitzing. Well, nobody was doing it. In that first defense that you were talking about, Kevin and Greg Lloyd and Kevin Green and those guys, they were fantastic. And Rod, Carnell Lake, and I mean, I can go on with those guys. They were super. But we would, I would say, here's what we're going to do. Here's the blitz, and I'd draw it up and put it in. Well, we practiced Wednesday, Thursday pretty hard. Friday a little less. And Saturday was more walkthrough, and Sunday you played the game. Well, if by Thursday leaving the field, I didn't feel like it was a natural thing for my guys, that they weren't taken to it, because when you got people like Rod Woodson, if he's not taken to it, then you must be doing something wrong and asking them to do it. So I would throw it out. I mean, I wasn't the kind of coach that said, oh, this is going to work. And maybe it would have worked, but it was just unpractical. So what am I looking for there? Anyhow, I threw it impractical. I threw it out, and I wasn't afraid to say, "Oh, Dick, you're not right here. Players can't do it, so just forget it." And I always felt good about what I did finally ask them to do, and I always put myself in a boat with them. If it didn't work, it was my idea, and we'll make it work the next time.
Everyone knows the story of James Harrison, undrafted player to defensive player of the year. What role did yourself and, linebacker coach Keith Butler have in developing him, or was that just all on LeBeau?
Well, yeah, I think you have to say the man-sized part of it was on LeBeau. He didn't have the opportunity. I think he was released in 5 different teams. And I was always, one of my salient points of pride in my career is I wasn't on any of those coaching staffs that released him. Because once I took a look at him on the practice field, I said, we got to find a place for this guy to play. Nobody could block him. Whatever his negatives were, we had to find a way to make him strong enough that he could get in the ball game, because he was going to be effective. And again, the experience of having looked at so many football players over so many years, I can most generally tell pretty quickly this guy's special. And Harrison was special, and I think that he'll end up beside Troy in the Hall of Fame someday with the statistics that he put up and the plays that he made. But Coach Butler, I had the utmost confidence in Coach Butler, and there's so much to do. And like the head coach has got everything to do, but each coordinator, offensive and defense, they're the next string in the puppet. I mean, you got to work with the whole room of defense, and there's a lot to do. And I felt completely comfortable with telling Coach Butler. I'd played against him, I'd coached with him. I knew his abilities. I knew his personality. He was a great coach. I said, make sure that they can't run this play or that play. And he was a huge part of that success of that defense, that 08 defense. And he was so good in game. If they are having trouble stopping a particular play, well, Keith and I eventually would work it out and we'd get it stopped. Well, a lot of that was the strength of his playing career and him over the years. So Coach Butler was a huge part of Coach Harrison's success. And I think, not Coach Harrison, the player Harrison, James Harrison, who, believe it or not, he ended up to be one of our better coaching players. He would coach the younger kids on the practice field. He was wonderful in that respect. And he knew our defense front and back before he left. And that's something that is very rarely said about Harrison. He was a smart player, but he was so daggone strong and physical that that's what people talk about with him. And we benefited from it. People said, well, Coach, don't you think he's a little short? But after only being on the field with him about 4 or 5 practices, I could see where he was so powerful that was leverage for him. And the offensive tackles are big guys, tall guys, and once he got under him, it didn't really matter that much. I mean, 1 or 2 guys could block him a little bit, but nobody could block him continually. And the fact that he wasn't real tall worked to his advantage, actually. But Keith and I just gave him an opportunity to play, which is coaching is, in my opinion, examine the guys you got. You're not going to grow new players until you get into a draft and training and things like that, and that's next year. Who have you got this year, and what do they do the best? And I don't give a damn what you think. What can they do the best? And that's what we tried to do with Harrison, and I think we were right in what we did with him.
Now, we hear players testify about Coach Mike Tomlin, about how he's able to motivate players. He comes into the team with legacy vets like yourself on the staff, John Mitchell. Does he have the same ability to motivate coaches like he did players?
I think Mike had trust in his assistants, and he was a very knowledgeable coach. He is a very knowledgeable coach. He was particularly in my area, which was defense. He was a defensive coordinator when he got the head job at Pittsburgh. And when he first came, I didn't know Mike. He didn't know me. So we spent a lot of time that first year as a head coach. He only has a certain amount of time that he can. But I tried to explain to him what we were doing and the reasoning behind. And he trusted us to present that defense to the team. And Mike was, every week we would meet with him and go over what we were doing. So he was always informed and always added certain comments and opinions. And he was a part of the plus of that defense without a doubt. One of the strengths of a good head coach, I think, is he's got to rely on his assistants because he can't be everywhere all the time. And I think both Mike and Bill Cowher, who were my head coaches that I played for or coached for in Pittsburgh, were both particularly gifted in that. And they were hands-on coaches that knew the game, both sides of the ball.
Last thing I'll ask you is, how often do you break out the 2 Super Bowl rings? Like, what kind of event, is it for you to wear both rings out?
Occasionally a friend of the family or someone that I don't know would say, "Can you bring over the rings?" Well, I couple 3 watches and things of that day. I bring them all, but other than that, I'm afraid to wear them. You walk in somewhere with those things shining all over, you may not walk out. I keep them in safe deposit. They'll be my son's.
Well, the book is legendary, available now on Amazon, Audible, or wherever you get your books. Coach LeBeau, congrats, and hopefully we'll see you at the in the Hall of Honor induction soon in Pittsburgh.
Well, it would be an honor, but I've had my share of honors, and the guys that are up on that Pittsburgh Hall of Honor, many of them I got to work with. And they're all very deserving. I wouldn't turn it down, but I'm not going to feel disadvantaged if I don't go.
Congrats again, and thank you. I appreciate your time. Thanks so much.
Good talking with you.
Dick LeBeau, Hall of Honor coming up this month. We'll find out this month. If Dick LeBeau's not in the Hall of Honor this year, then would he ever? I mean, I don't know.
I thought you got into the Hall of Honor automatically once you were in the NFL Hall of Fame. I thought that was the whole point of the Hall of Honor, that it was the Hall of Very Good for Steelers that made great contributions to the team, but maybe weren't Hall of Fame recipients.
This would be the year. I think this weekend he's at the Heinz History Center or whatever to
Okay.
sign his book. And so this is with the book out, and the announcement comes at the end of this month, I believe. So let's do it. Let's put him
why
in.
not?
I
mean, I thought you got kind of grandfathered in. Yeah.
He's already got the key to the city to Pittsburgh. I think they gave him that in 2018
That
after
makes
he
sense.
retired. It's like,
That
what,
makes
you
sense.
got the key to the city, you got the Hall of Fame, you got the yellow jacket, you got the rings. Let's give him the what do you get? You get a football trophy. What do you get for the Hall of Honor?
I totally do not know what you get.
I think you get a bust or something. I don't know.
Sure.
I haven't even been. That shows me I haven't even been to the Hall of Honor.
I don't know where it is. I mean, I
it's
guess
in the state. I mean,
oh, okay. I mean, I know where you walk through like the lockers they have of the. Anyway,
Yeah.
we're not the most informed there.
All right. Some odds and ends, starting with at Ed Block Foundation. New Courage Cast featuring Calvin Austin. He talks Tomlin. Of course, everyone wants to know about Tomlin because he's only the greatest. So the interesting quote from Calvin Austin says Tomlin wants players to talk trash. The quote, apparently, according to Calvin Austin from Tomlin, is, "Look, when I talk trash to you guys, I want you to talk trash back to me when you make a play."
Oh.
What kind of trash? What could you say to Tomlin to be trash talking?
Well, I would imagine, and I am totally spitballing here, but it's something just in response to what Tomlin has said to you. Like if Tomlin is trash talking you and you make a play, then you give him some variation of what he just said to you. That would be my guess, because that would also be easier than trying to think of what to trash talk someone who's a genuine intellectual who's been doing this much longer than you've been in the game.
So he's like, 2 dogs, 1 bone, Calvin and Quez or something, 2 dogs, 1 bone. And then Calvin's like, ruff, ruff, ruff. I don't know.
Or that could be it. Or Calvin does, and maybe I've seen A League of Their Own too many times, but Calvin does is like, 1 dog, my bone. Like, so, you know what I mean? Like something to that effect. Like that's something that's responding in time, but I doubt it's quite that well thought out. It is on Tomlin's end.
Yeah.
That I know. On the player, I think it's just, but the idea of, building swagger and building confidence in yourself, which is, it seems like it's obviously what Tomlin's trying to do here. That makes sense.
Can we criticize them when we see players like Chase Claypool doing the first down after the first down? Like, can we criticize him for that if the message during practice is get out there and do your thing?
Well, I don't know if that's not necessarily trash talking though. That's making a big spectacle of yourself. I mean, saying something to another player is very different than spiking the ball and doing the dance and pointing and doing like Warrior 2 or whatever that is. But yeah, but again, I would also assume it's like, not quite everything to students and teachers, but I mean, the teacher that's going to be a little more cool towards you and treat you like an adult is the one that's also expecting you to act like an adult in multiple scenarios as well.
Everybody else gets a little tight.
Yeah, I guess the message is, stay loose. Don't be so tight up there. I want to hear Russ's trash talk. Let's ride.
You are less than perfect right now.
Jesus isn't my co-pilot. I'm driving the car. I don't. Let's go to this. I didn't even want to bring it. By Josh Carney. Josh Carney. ESPN's top 10 survey from executive coaches and players. Running backs Najee Harris and Jaylen Warren were both largely snubbed from even being in consideration. I mean, is this a big snub? They're not Pro Bowlers statistically.
No. I the only way they could be even conceivably snubbed, and I don't think they would be in this context either, as if it were the survey from executive coaches and players involved 10 players at every position. But even then, I'm not sure it's like all that big a snub.
They still were putting Derrick Henry in there. I mean, he's at a matured age. Is he still a top 10 running back? I think that's yet to be seen.
I mean, and if he is, he's 10 or 9 or and that could be around where Najee is too. So especially since they do this running back by committee thing, I don't know that they should feel terribly snubbed. Also, I just noted the use of largely, so that meant maybe somebody included them in whatever this top 10 list is, so that because largely is not entirely.
everyone wants to make Jaylen Warren a franchise back. I just don't think we've seen that yet. And it's going to take a season of more than what we've seen before he's even the number one, right?
Right. Oh, yes. It seems like Mike Tomlin and Omar Khan are ready for Jaylen Warren to be the go-to back. But I think they're very glad to have Najee for this year, and you got to take them at their word. They're going to let this play out. But, man, you're going to see a lot of both of them carrying the ball.
Listening to the Hard Knocks Giants, how they talk about Barkley, makes me think, oh, well, then this is probably how the Steelers are talking about Najee.
Yeah, it would make some sense. I mean, that was a player that was. I mean, Najee was integral to the Steelers' offense, but man, Barkley was the Giants' offense.
So yeah, if they're like, yeah, we're not paying a $40 million quarterback to hand off to a $12 million running back, then I'm thinking, oh shoot, then it's probably that cut and dry for Omar and Mike Tomlin too, and it's just people like me who want Najee to stick around much longer than. Maybe he will. We'll see. I guess that's to be determined.
Right.
Let's go to at NFL_Dove Kleiman. The most famous celebrity fan of each NFL team. And the Steelers get Poison singer Bret Michaels.
Wow.
What?
Wow.
What about Snoop Dogg? Now people could say, oh, he's a fan of like 5 teams.
No, but he's been the Steelers fan for a long time. I mean, that's you absolutely would include Snoop in this.
And is Bret Michaels more famous than Michael Keaton? The original Batman?
Right. I mean, you can say like, okay, well, Bret Michaels, a rock star, yeah, but they were at the peak of their fame at the exact same time, and Keaton won an Oscar later on.
Yeah, so Birdman is no joke either.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So that I forgot that Clooney's from Kentucky and was a Bengals fan, but yeah,
you never see him rep Bengals. I don't think I've ever.
I mean, it's where he grew up, but I mean, it's not. I think I speak for a lot of us when I say I don't know Derek Trucks.
He's a singer. He's
okay.
I think he did a stint in the Allman Brothers.
Oh, okay. I think I saw Chad Michael Murray in a movie about a haunted camp. If I'm thinking of the same guy. Stacy Kleber also isn't the most famous Ravens fan. It's Josh Lucas, isn't it? I mean, the guy's been in a million TV shows and movies, or maybe I'm just showing the kind of thing that I watch. Timberlake does beat out Tony Shalhoub for most famous Packers fan, so that's a good point.
Well, if that's the best some of these teams can come up with, what about Robert Downey Jr.? Iron Man, isn't Iron Man a Steelers fan?
Remember there was that bizarre video a couple years ago where he's like, Jack Lambert's brother is here. Anyway, thanks, Cam Hayward, I'm going to send you a shield. Like, remember that day?
Yeah.
Like, that was so wild.
So I might put, I don't know. I mean, is Bret Michaels at this point, is he more famous than Billy Gardell even? I mean.
Yeah, because Billy Gardell's been on some TV shows recently.
Yeah.
Dennis Quaid was famous before there was a Houston Texans team. Like, I would need to have that one explained to me. Rob Lowe, who we know is a devout sports fan, from that meme that's gone around forever of him in the NFL hat.
Yeah, is he really a Colts fan? He's more of a fan of the Shield.
Right. Bradley Cooper is the Eagles fan. You kind of got to give him that one. Although Mike Trout is pretty close. But yeah, that is this. The rest of these I can more or less understand in terms of things. Sure. I guess Bryan Cranston's the biggest Rams fan. It feels like there'd be a lot of folks out here. But this does seem like we just kind of Googled or asked ChatGPT, hey, who's a celebrity fan of a team? And then we put it out for engagement.
Yeah, Dick Vitale is the biggest Bucks fan. That's
Right. Surely someone else of some vintage is from the Buccaneers or enjoys Tampa Bay or something or other. Jeez.
I think if we did an all celeb team, I think Steelers would come out. We've got Chris Kirkpatrick from NSYNC. We've got I don't know, some other DMC from Run DMC.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like the Steelers fans could put together the best group, the best musical act. Maybe that's certainly what I've seen from this. Sure.
Speaking of celebs, let's do give our final word to over on Instagram at Washington Wild Things. This Saturday is they don't even call it the Cam Hayward charity softball game now. It's the Three Rivers celebrity softball game.
Okay.
And it's team defense versus team offense. Team defense Cam Hayward. Okay. Patrick Queen. Okay, that's cool.
Sure.
Welcome to the city.
Yeah.
Brett Kiesel. There's Anthony
Everett. I mean, he's in the softball game. You got to give him the leg up on the field.
Tyson Alalalu. Maybe he can still suit up? I don't know. Cam Sutton. So I mean,
I mean, if he's going to play in the game, that's. I imagine that would be uncomfortable and weird. But I mean, that's if he's playing in the game, he's playing in the game. And Ike and Casey.
So it's no JP Jr., no Joey Porter Sr., no. I feel like we've had bigger softball lineups in the past, but now with the Troy Polamalu charity game, it's kind of getting. And
it's a competitive market.
Yeah, and let's see. Team offense. Is Connor Hayward. Roman Wilson, rookie. Doran Dickerson. He's like the captain.
Yeah.
Freiermuth, Trey Essex. Gilbert Brown.
He played Pitt basketball, right?
Yeah, Pat White, the Mountaineer quarterback.
Okay. Deion Lewis played for Pitt football and then for the Patriots for a long time with Brady.
Yeah. Troy Smith, the Ohio State quarterback.
Who was the first rookie to beat LeBeau, right? With the Ravens? Wasn't that it?
Where is no quarter? Where's Russ? Where's Justin? Where's Najee?
Yeah, this is, I mean, in terms of star power, it's team defense all the way here. In terms of players,
Yeah, we went from Kenny hits dingers to I don't know, Trey Essex.
Tommy smokes him.
So I don't know,
Yeah.
I don't know, and this just makes me wonder. Is like
maybe Cam has to take his name off this.
I'm wondering if he's like dialing it down a bit. If it's like, okay, we're gonna, now he already had his golf tournament too.
Okay, so Cam is out there.
It's
Cam
like how much, I don't know, but. And they also announced these lineups way late. The game is this Saturday.
Wow. So, well, I mean, that could speak to, as somebody's lineups could speak to, maybe the logistics of scheduling were not easy in 2024.
Yeah, where's Troy Fontanu? Come out and meet the public. Where is Zach Frazier? Would have been nice.
I mean, it's the Wilson, the rookie quarterback. I mean, the Pirates beat up his brother the other night for the Brewers. They hit like 4 home runs off him or something. So it's going to be a little baseball in that guy.
Well, it's not the go-to event that it once was with Kenny showing up hitting dingers.
Yes.
But maybe that was part of the jinx. I don't know. Maybe Russ is staying away. I don't know.
Or also, it just hit me now, somebody that could be a Major League Baseball player. Perhaps it's not a good fit for the celebrity softball game.
I mean, Russ is doing his Pittsburgh Charm Tour. You would think that this would be part of it. Oh, well, I think that's what we've been talking about.
That's what we've been talking about.
Okay, thank you, Coach. A quick announcement. People have been asking, where can we find the songs from the podcast, the original Steelers songs? How many podcasts out there are creating original music? Starting Monday the 15th, on Spotify, iHeartRadio, and Apple iTunes, and Pandora, whatever you get your music. Whatchin's talking about Steelers songs, Volume 1. 30 tracks, believe it or not. 30 tracks. Wow. From everything from Let Russ Cook to which game are Yins going to Tomlinisms to who's going to catch the ball. All of the classic tracks. OTA me, ASAP. All of your favorite Steelers songs will be up on Spotify and etc. 30 tracks in all. I'm only going to need like about 7 million streams to pay for the submission. So I don't know. Listen to those if you dare. Otherwise, we'll keep the conversation going on social media. I'm Kyle Kreis on TikTok and Twitter. Greg, how about yourself?
Unfortunately, you can find me on Instagram at Greg Benevent. B as in boy, E-N-E, V as in Victor, E-N-T.
Don't forget that we're looking for iTunes reviews, YouTube subscriptions to get into the running for our free giveaways. We've got a copy of this legendary book now. So if you were, I don't want the Levon Kirkland kids book. Okay, well now you can get the legendary book out now. Be the first kid on your block to read all about Dick LeBeau. But what do you have to read? You already listened to the greatest interview on a Steelers podcast. No one else was asking him about, could you line up against AB? What do you do with your rings? Hall of Honor, blah, blah. All right, enough of me trying to induce sympathy, empathy.
Well, to sell the interview that someone's presumably already listened to.
Yeah. Tell a friend about the LeBeau interview. Tell them who did it best. Screw the Trib, the PPG, Depot. No. What Jin's talking about knows what they're talking about. Ooh. All right. Until next week, keep listening to your coach.
Be their best selves. That's going to be required.
Stay in school.